147 million specimens, the largest collection in the world. Everything from giant dinosaur bones to delicate butterflies to pickled animals. But less than 1% of it's on display. The rest is tucked away in what's called collections. It costs more than $100 million to run the museum. So why does the US government spend so much money on things most Americans will never see? Well, the specimens aren't just sitting here gathering dust. They're actively used for research.
We're collecting specimens so that scientists 50 years from now or 100 years from now will have access to the same diversity we have right now.
And we may never know how important these collections may be for scientists in the future.
Museums are the memory of our culture, and they're the memory of our planet. And imagine the Smithsonian in the year 2400. It'll have specimens from this time that will be a distant memory to the people then.
The story of the crystal skulls.
There were 13 heads, and it was purported that the Navajo, the Anasazi, the Mayans, the Aztec each had one.
What do the indigenous people say? They say they found them?
The Navajo say they came from the Star Children, that they were brought down and deposited and given to them as crystal ball devices. The most famous one is the Mitchell Hedges skull, which was found in the Yucatan by Anna Mitchell Hedges. She reached into a cave. She was with her grandfather, and it was around 1926. And beautiful skull. The Hewlett-Packard engineers did a test on it in the 60s. They said it could not have been carved by a lapidary, by tools. It had to have been polished over hundreds of years, over centuries, to get to the shape that it was. And the Hewlett-Packard engineers took that Mitchell Hedges skull, and they said this cannot have not been polished. It would have been cracked or destroyed. It could not have been built by tools. It would have been cracked or destroyed. It had to have been polished. Yeah, there's one in Mexico City. It's one of our minis. It's got a cross stuck right in the top of it, which is, that would shatter a crystal if you did that. How that cross got there, I don't know. The woman at the Smithsonian, she says they're all fakes, that they were carved by a German lapidary in the 1800s, and that he seeded them around the world. Well, wait a minute. I think one was found in Tibet, one was found in Ohio, we're hearing, at the Serpent Mounds. Wait a minute, he would have had an airship to go and deposit these wherever they might be around the world. If they're all fakes, how did they get to these different places around the world, and how were they found? They were found at different times in history around the world. How do you go and seed? How do you deposit them
engineers
there?
who looked at Hedges' skull, they said that the only way the skull could have been designed the way that it is if it was polished over hundreds of years, because any other way would have cracked or broken the skull. And that concept, that idea that something could have been polished down, the crystal could have been polished down to make that shape over a very long period of time, that's also very strange. HP, Hewlett-Packard, who did a study on it in the 1970s. I mean, they're a computer company. They're coming from the standpoint of microprocessors, right? They're coming from the standpoint of trying to understand crystalline structures and computing and technology. And I think it is really interesting that they investigated this skull. It is. Their results, what they found was contradictory to the Smithsonian. Here you have HP who says, well, we didn't see any cut marks with microscopes on this stone, where Smithsonian says they saw cut marks on it. But then also they say that, well, it would have had to have been polished over it took 300 years to make this thing. But the thing is, the reason why they come to that conclusion is because they don't believe that there was anything before. And we just go back, well, the hunter-gatherers, I mean, they couldn't do this, so they would have to do it over this time period. Right. The engineers are saying it had to have been polished because it's the only way they could have seen that type of thing to be done, but they have no idea of what a technology was like in a previous civilization if there was one. Right, so that doesn't even enter into the discussion. It's just how did modern humans create it? Hewlett-Packard, they're just trying to figure out scientifically like how they can use these types of things more effectively. So they want to investigate it, while the Smithsonian is more interested in
the Mayans believe that there are the one skull, and then the Mayans, they created 12 other skulls using the center skull as a something that they copied. And the 12 skulls are made by the gods. That was what they believe. And they say that the skulls, when put in the proper alignment, and it has to do with peace on the planet. And it has very much connection with this 2012 period that we're coming into. So they say it's very important that these skulls are found, brought out, and that this alignment happens. I do feel that the skulls are being called. Something through them is being called, because I feel this is happening. And now with the shows that we're doing, the sci-fi going all over the world, people are seeing it, and it's affecting some part of their heart or mind, and these skulls are going to be found and brought out, is what I feel. What I feel and what I've seen, I think this is the main skull. I think it was the one that was brought from Atlantis or from whatever. That's my opinion. And I base that on being around it and the different experiences I felt with it and the things that I have worked with it. It's a crystal, but it's an entity, it's a life form. And you can feel that energy and that life when you're around it. It's a pretty neat
cave
thing.
found in the Grand Canyon that predated Native Americans, and in fact looked like it came from Egypt, and the Smithsonian denies it to this day, yet they funded the expedition.
What?
Yes. So 1908, this explorer, he wanted to go to the Grand Canyon to look for gold. He was going down one of the rivers and saw a mineral deposit about 2,000 feet up, went up there, and he saw some bushes or whatever, and he pushed the bushes aside, and it was a staircase that led up to clearly a man-made cave.
Yeah.
He walked in there and immediately was like, what am I looking at? Because it looked like there was hieroglyphics all on the walls, and it was huge. And so he took some pictures and then went to the Smithsonian and was like, can you fund me? We'll get a team out there to see what this is. So they went out there, and it was basically an underground city. It would have housed 50,000 people.
What?
The natives in that region, they talked about how they weren't the first people on the land, and that there was people actually before them. Those people were taught by the star
Never
people
happened.
how to make
He
weapons.
stonewalled anyone who asked questions. And the explorer, he was never heard from again. If only they had written something down. They did. Too bad we can't read it.
On all the urns or walls over doorways and tablets of stone which were found by the image are the mysterious hieroglyphics, the key to which the Smithsonian Institute hopes yet to discover. The engraving on the tables probably has something to do with the religion of the people. Similar hieroglyphics have been found in southern Arizona.
Interestingly enough, walking through hundreds of feet of dark passageways. So after wandering around and checking things out for Lord knows how long, Mr. Kincaid takes a bunch of pictures, gathers up some of the more interesting artifacts, loads them on his boat, and keeps on trucking down the river.
I gathered a number of relics which I carried down the Colorado to Yuma, from whence I shipped them to Washington with details of the discovery.
And the people at the Smithsonian in Washington must be mighty impressed by what GE sends them, because they immediately make plans under the direction of Professor S.A. Jordan to send down another 30 or 40 people to explore the caverns even further. Over the years, the legend of the lost Egyptian city within the Grand Canyon continued to grow, and more people started to investigate. Peter Hay of the website sightings.com sent a letter to the Smithsonian asking if they had any records relating to the story. The response he got back:
the Smithsonian's Department of Anthropology has searched its files without finding any mention of a Professor Jordan, Kincaid, or a lost Egyptian civilization in Arizona.
Big surprise, right? Okay, except that's not
20th century
true.
gold rush.
A
Discovery was made near Atlin in the southeast corner of the Alaska Triangle that would make news headlines across the USA. Researcher Johnny Enoch has uncovered a press report from November 18, 1900, showing startling scientific evidence of giants in Alaska.
I found this article from the 1900s that says, "Skeletons of Giants in Alaska. Ancient cemetery uncovered in the Atlin Gold District." This is incredible, because this really lends credibility to the stories we've heard from Native American traditions about giants.
After digging at the Yellow Jacket mine in Atlin, a gold prospector, James L. Perkinson, made a find beyond anything he ever expected.
5 skeletons, nearly complete, were exhumed, and each is the set of bones that belong to a giant. One of the skeletons measures over 7 feet in length, so the men must have been considerably over that height, and the men were of a gigantic frame.
The forearms of these monsters were described as enormous, and they were armed and dangerous too, with 3-foot wooden spears found alongside their bodies. For Johnny Enoch, this is evidence that giants existed in Alaska.
Could this be verifiable proof that at one time those ancient lands of Alaska were inhabited by
Through
giants?
the records, you can find numerous accounts of bones, skeletons, and giant-sized artifacts that have been found in this area. In 1904, it was reported that an 11-foot tall skeleton was found. And then we have accounts in 1931 of an 8.5-foot skeleton that was reported. And so the fact is, you have the stories, you have the skeletal evidence, and you have the artifacts, and even the legends that prove this was a real story of giants in this area. From old newspapers, journals, Smithsonian records, and so forth, of skeletons between 7 foot and about 15 feet high, some with double rows of teeth, all over North America, mainly in the mound culture sites, but also from California to New England. Some very large skeletons were discovered at a place called the War Ditches. Strangely, at the base of the hill, there's a site called Giant's Grave. Also, there's legends of giants up on the hills there, and this is right on literally on the hill that my school was on. I was quite intrigued that even in your local vicinity, you actually find records, if you know where to look, of these strange giant skeletons. Throughout the world, there's different cultures going back into different parts of history and prehistory that depict giants, not only in the carving that you can see here, but in their legends and their stories and in the folklore. And sometimes the way they're described, it seems very matter of fact. And also the ancient stories of Merlin. Now this is actually the oldest known picture or painting of Stonehenge that ever existed. And it shows a giant building it. Merlin's down there on the bottom left with the nice beard. And he was said to have summoned giants from Ireland, bring the stones over and to construct Stonehenge itself. And so this was a part of the history of the kings of Britain. And because Merlin was said to have employed giants from Ireland, I started to look into giant reports in Ireland, and lo and behold, there are several accounts. You've got to remember as well, the giants were there when the first Europeans went over there, well, of the modern age, a few hundred years ago. They were meeting these giants all over New England. Even Abraham Lincoln and other presidents saw some 7-foot to 8-foot chiefs who were still around. Unfortunately, most of them have kind of died off now. I'm not sure why.
Like finding a giant skeleton, right? If you went 100 years ago in the U.S., do you know how many newspaper clippings are there that talk about giant skeletons found in the U.S.?
No.
Oh, you don't know?
How many?
Oh my God, thousands.
Really?
Yep, newspaper clippings of giant skeletons found in the U.S. We're seeing this is found. Yeah, look at that. 1919, 18 feet tall, Austin, Texas. You'll
June
find
14th.
them. You'll find them in Florida. You'll find them in California. You'll find them everywhere, right? But where are they now? Why are they not found?
Right. Yeah. Why? Why do you think it's not talked about now?
What do you think will happen if they do talk about it?
Yeah, that's a good question. Why?
If you're an archaeologist and you do find a giant skeleton, right, 10 feet tall, would you tell this to the world?
Hell yeah, I would.
You wouldn't. You would be out of that archaeology degree and your position in a week. If you do, forgot the name of that guy who came out and he talked about giant skeletons. He was an archaeologist. And that guy was called a liar. And he was by Jim Vieira and Hugh Newman. They talk about giant mound builders of America. You know, this Jim Vieira, he's in Boston, Massachusetts. He talked about the giant mound builders, and he came on a TED Talk, man. And
really?
That TED Talk was banned.
What is it?
If you go to Wikipedia, right, giant skeletons reported in the U.S., right, are a combination of hoaxes, scams,
and
fabrications, and the misidentifications of extinct megafauna. Usually my videos won't come up unless you search for them. But you can see, this is like 49 skeletons.
That's a lot.
That's a state archaeologist, right? I show this and I say, oh, this is G.S. Fisher.
What is the idea about the giant skeletons? How do they tie into all this stuff?
No, well,
where do you think they came from?
No matter what Wikipedia tells you today, unless they want to say Abraham Lincoln was trying to spread fake news, right?
Conspiracy theorist.
That's a direct quote from Abraham Lincoln, right? The eyes of that species of extinct giants whose bones fill the mounds of America.
It was common knowledge in the United States in the 1800s that there were burial mounds at numerous sites containing the bones of giant humans. Even Abraham Lincoln mentioned this in one of his speeches given at Niagara Falls.
At Puckett's Cave, where they found an 8.5-foot skeleton littered within the Smithsonian's own ethnology reports. Their scientists have described the unearthing of massive bones over and over again. And so it's embedded in their records. And in episode 2 of our show, well, I'll backtrack, and the Smithsonian claims that the largest skeleton that's ever been in their possession is a 6'3" Sioux Native American skeleton with acromegaly. That's like pituitary gigantism. It's a disease condition.
Right.
So they're claiming that, right? We're in Staleville, Missouri in episode 2, and we find the cave at Puckett's Cave, where they found an 8.5-foot skeleton. And we go through, we talk to everyone, we find where it was unearthed, and we go through the microfilm, and we find an 8.5-foot skeleton laying on the doctor's office next to 6.5 Les Eaton. We found a photograph of it, and then 15 days later, it's requested to be shipped to the Smithsonian. And I'm saying that the skeleton is there, wired together by University of Missouri archaeologists and shipped to the Smithsonian. So, like, how does that shrink into something that's less than 6'3"? And the Smithsonian's own records have account after account that Hugh and I read about in our book of similar skeletons that are claimed by their scientists to be over 7 foot, over 8 foot. Often look at the alternative community of researchers is that it's like they're my ideological enemy, like in politics. I'm not going to yield an inch to them. I'm not just going to dismiss what they have to say. I'm going to denigrate them. I'm going to call them racist. I'm going to, do whatever I can to throw red meat to my base because I'm stimulated, because I'm some heroic gatekeeper. And on this end, on the alternative end, I would say I could run with this narrative that, I'm some maverick fighting the evils of archaeology, and I'm a great guy in be in this bullshit echo chamber of true believers as well. But that's not reality either. Science is apolitical, science is objective. I need to see and analyze a 10-foot skeleton to solve the case. I can't just spin bullshit. You know what I mean? So the moral of the story is, scientists are like cops. They should deal with a lot of shit. They deal with crazy people.
Right.
And they got to keep their cool to get the respect they deserve.
In Acambaro, Mexico, you have 32,000 figurines, many of them looking like dinosaurs, that were supposedly uncovered over a long period of time in the 1940s through the 1950s in Acambaro, Mexico, in different excavations around the area in a place called El Toro Mountain. This guy right here on the screen right here is Waldemar Joelschrud. He was a German immigrant that was a businessman that came to the area, and he was very well respected. Even the people that claim that this is a hoax had good things to say about him. No one pointed fingers at this guy. He was the first one to find a figurine sticking out of the sand, basically, at El Toro Mountain. El Toro Mountain used to be at the base of an ancient lake, and so it's like a sandy beach where this was found. And so the next day, Teniero comes back, and he's just got a whole bunch more. Teniero said, hey, there's more artifacts. I've found more. After years of collecting this stuff, you now have 32,000 figurines that are in this museum, probably 4,000 on display. It's not just dinosaurs, dinosaur-looking figures that they found. There's figurines of artifacts that look Egyptian, that look like they have old world significance to them.
Used to be a year-round drunken eggnog rager. The first Smithsonian Museum was this lovely castle, but pretty empty, lacking stuff. So, in 1857, zoologist William Stimson tried to inspire fellow naturalists to gather a collection for the Smithsonian by getting them hammered. Stimson made extra money by raising hens to sell eggs. He took the unsold eggs, combined that with the cheapest booze to make eggnog. Pretty soon neighbors were complaining about the raging eggnog parties for scientists at his house. Stimson responded by creating the Megatherium Club, named after this giant ground sloth, recruiting talent to the Smithsonian by pounding eggnog and having drunken sack races inside of the castle. There are guys who did entire dangerous expeditions for the Smithsonian just to join that eggnog frat. And I think about that, every Christmas.
Well, when the Freemasons had Washington, D.C. built, they hid Masonic symbols into the infrastructure itself. These symbols could be found by following important monuments and buildings in Washington, D.C., where you would find symbols like the square and compasses and even the pentagram.
You get into Washington, D.C., and what do we see here? This is extremely important, but if you take a look, here is the Illuminati pyramid. The capital of the United States is at the top of the eye of the pyramid. You see the separation. And Jordan, go in and explain that.
Yes, the obelisk, you'll see the Egyptian obelisk here. The Egyptian obelisk points up to the top of the triangle or the top of the pyramid. We're talking about occultic forces. We're talking about the 5-pointed pentagram, which was used by satanic worshippers for thousands of years. If you take the 5 points off of a 5-pointed star or a pentagram, you have left in the middle a pentagon. That's why the United States has a pentagon. The pentagon is directed toward the North Star because according to the ancient Babylonians, that's where you gathered power from the gods of the North in war. We're talking about a concerted effort to manipulate the human beings of this country into a new order and a new world, and the people are going along with it, docile and have nothing.
And if we take a look at the map of Washington, D.C., here's the White House at the top of the pentagram, the same satanic seal on the first church of Satan. The configuration was laid out, and of course we have the goat of Mendes. Also.
As you heard for yourself, Jordan Maxwell made some very interesting points with this video. He showed proof that this seems to be the case. With me knowing that America was created by the Freemasons and their obsession with symbols, this one isn't hard to believe at all. I first heard this theory over 10 years ago now, and I have believed it since then. It's one of those first theories that wake you up and show you the truth about our country. Washington, D.C. is the capital of America. Since the Freemasons played a crucial role in the creation and development of the country, I know for sure they hit a cold Masonic symbols in every aspect of this country, just like we see on the back of the $1 bill.
And it's not even the first one. Did you know there's a little mini one buried in a manhole right next to it? There's an Egyptian winged disc above the elevator door. You ready for this? This first Washington monument was built a couple days after Washington died, and then they decided that they needed something a little more epic, so they started building the one that we see. The new one was started July 4th, 1848, and then they stopped because everyone was dying in the Civil War, and then they restarted, which is why it's two-tone now. The little one that's in the manhole right next to it is used for surveying and map making, and they thought it would be cool to make it a little mini version of the big one. When you walk into the monument, you hit the elevator where Washington's face is above it, and above that is the Egyptian winged disc. This is the same disc above temple doors like this one in Thebes. This one is the rabbit hole. So Washington was a Mason. His Masonic memorial is in Alexandria, Virginia, and it mirrors the Lighthouse of Alexandria in Egypt. The Freemasons are a rebrand of the Knights Templar. The church thought they executed all of them, but some went into hiding. Grand Grandmaster has made a documentary proving all of this. Watch it. You can prove it without any of that, though. So this is the Templar cross. It's not the Christian cross. It represents the original excavators of the 8-sided Great Pyramid. The squaring the circle was an ancient math and philosophy problem, and the Great Pyramid solves this problem through its slope angle. You can only see it from the air. When you use that angle to solve the problem, it forms this curved cross, or is related to the other angles in the golden ratio. It's the angle of proportion and natural phenomenon, and it's denoted with that symbol. That symbol is a 2D representation of a torus. When plotted mathematically, it forms the donut shape of a torus. The original name for Giza was Rostau. That means mouth of the passages, and it's shown by the vesica. The Washington Monument and its Vatican counterpart sit in the middle of a vesica. The overlapping circles are the origin of the Freemason logo. The knowledge of reality was communicated through geometry. That knowledge was carried through the esoteric symbols throughout history. That's why I can't stop learning this stuff, because you can learn all that from a carving on top of an
empire,
elevator.
highly advanced. Yes. Let us take the matter of history, which along with religion, language, and literature, core of a people's cultural heritage. For example, on the 9th of August, 1944, the Central Committee of the Communist Party issued a directive ordering the parties to proceed to the scientific revision of the history of Tartaria. Tartar history was to be falsified in order to eliminate references to Great Russia aggressions and hide the fact of the real course of the Tartar-Russian relations.
Wow. What does that all mean?
So basically, it existed. That just made me freak out a little bit. Yeah. Because we talked about the Mandela effect. Yep. Also talked about with the Smithsonian, like the Native Americans and like how developed they were and like how they connected to people groups from all over the world. But the Smithsonian's like, no, we're going to write history like this.
Yeah.
They were isolated and dumb.
Yeah, it can't be vindicated because it didn't exist.
Yeah.
Like, what are you talking about? This is what happened. Can you prove it differently? It's like, well, no, because you ruined it. Like, you took everything.
What is up? What is up? What is up? Hopefully you're having a wonderful day, whoever you are, wherever you are. I always say, stay to the positive, never to the negative. Always remember that. Go up in the day, baby. You play, you only get one life to live. You better live it for today. That's facts. Stay ablazing, stay amazing, stay true, stay you. No matter what you're doing.